Hello, this is Vampire. For today, I wanted to talk about this was during a time where I had been training in BJJ for quite some while. Basically, I guess I was a very experienced white belt. I had been to quite a bit of different schools by this point. I've had lots of sparring experience. It's just that I had to move around from city to city, whatnot, so I couldn't stay at one place. And so I was in this new city, and I found a really cool school. This school offered a lot of different types of classes. This was a college town, so it was kind of hip. It had, the latest stuff and things of that nature. So it was really nice. That one of the head instructors there was Tony Blauer certified. He was one of the I saw the certification and everything. He was one of Tony Blauer certified instructor for martial arts. He was one of the warrior guys. And what made it really cool was I signed up for grappling class, but it wasn't normal grappling class. Even though 90% of it was regular BJJ, the 10% that they put in, there were several instructors there, and they were all very skilled. They were all very good. And the things that they put in was really nice because it was street applicable things. So it wasn't your normal Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, and I really enjoyed that a whole lot. Okay, so I was training here, loved it. There was a guy who was a former Marine hand-to-hand combat instructor. So this guy was a Marine, and I mean, he was a super nice guy. Super nice guy. Got along well with the guy. I was very interested in the military and stuff, so he would tell me all these stories about the military. Lots of cool experiences and stuff like that, so we got along great. Now, in class, however, during sparring time, the guy would change personalities. He was an animal. This guy, in fact, in this school, he already had the reputation as being the meanest, baddest, badass. He wasn't technically the best, but he was definitely a monster. And instantly, I became rivals with this guy. I can't even imagine how I could choose someone like this to be my rival when they're it's like having two types of Hot Wheel cars, and one is very sturdy construction and the other is not, and you play very rough with both of them. The one that's not sturdy is going to break. Well, that's me. So even if I had tapped him out, even if I had won, so to speak, I felt broken every time after we sparred because he's just more sturdy. He's just built stronger. He's not just that he's a Marine, but the build is not the same. Some people are just, I don't know, corn-fed or something. So anyway, we became instant rivals, and like I said, this guy was a beast when it came to sparring. And one of the times I sparred the guy, it was intense, just as I expected. Sparred with him, and I ended up getting an armbar. I was in the guard position. He was on top, and he was trying to stack me. I ended up getting an armbar. The guy stood up, and he was going to pick me up to slam me on my head. That was his escape. And knowing him, he wasn't going to hold back. So I had to go as hard as I can on the arm. So I snapped his arm, basically. I popped his arm. The guy tapped out, and okay, so that was it. All of our matches were intense, but this was perhaps a little bit more because he actually suffered an injury. Because he was so cool, after class we talked together and stuff. Right after that match, he left immediately. He was in pretty severe pain, but he didn't show it or anything. He just took off, But later on, I was able to talk to him. And he told me that I had popped his arm real bad, and it took him a long time to heal it, and he was quite not the same for a while and whatnot, that kind of thing. And I told him I was sorry and blah 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 blah. The next time we sparred, I thought, hey, because we had that talk, maybe he's going to be different. Well, no, he wasn't. He's the same old guy, 100% full force, coming to kill you. Like I said, real nice, normally, but then when you spar the guy, an animal, a born killer. So I realized at this point that basically I was very lucky to have gotten that armbar. I mean, I was this close to getting dropped on my head and perhaps getting my neck broken. Yeah, I broke his arm, let's say. You know, I popped a few capsules in his arm. I broke his arm, okay. Not permanently. I hope not, at least. But, okay, so I did that to him. But what he could have done to me was way worse. If he had slammed me on my neck or something, I could have been retired permanently. And who knows if I would have ever been the same after that. So I realized that I need to change something. This is not right. Plus that armbar that I got, I mean, it was really a matter of speed. I was slightly faster at that particular moment. We spar again 9 times out of 10. I don't know. It could go 50-50, you know. It could have gone either way is what I'm trying to say. So luckily I wasn't so arrogant that I was just you know, just dwelling in my victory. I realized that, hey, that was a really close call. Something's not right here. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, at least the way I try to practice, it is, you know, not for sport. It's for self-defense, and you know that's just not good enough. All right, you're relying way too much on your athletic ability. So something was really, really wrong, and I thought about it, and at this moment, the only realization that I had was something was wrong. Later on, it took more time, but I started to put the pieces of the puzzle together and realize what it was. Okay, so basically, if you spar against someone that's not as good as you are, like they're just starting out or whatever, you could annihilate the guy. It's no competition, right? And then if you spar against someone that's way better than you, all right, you're going to get annihilated. Okay, you get destroyed. Okay, so big deal, right? Not a problem. So either you destroy somebody or you get destroyed. Okay, but when you spar somebody that's around the same level as you are, okay, and I'm not just talking skill, because strength, determination, those things could, you know, make up for things. Okay, so when you spar against someone that's basically the same as you are, right? That's when you have the toughest matches. That's when someone's at your level and you spar against them, that's when because your pride, because you want to win, because you don't want to lose, you know, you're going to go the extra mile, and so are they, and that's when you can get hurt, when you're very close. You know, just look at pro matches. When two people are about the same skill, that's a very close match, and that's when they have to really fight their heart out. That's where they have to dig deep, see who's going to prevail, you know, because it's so close. You have to throw everything in the kitchen sink, right? And that's a darn shame. That's a darn shame. So my realization was that I'm training incorrectly. That was the realization. Because think about it. The guy at your level is the person that you could learn the most from, because you're going through the same things. Okay, and an instructor who's someone who's way better than you, you know, it's been a while since they were at your level. So maybe some things they've already forgotten. They can't relate to you. You know, they're not in the same mindset as you are. Maybe they have to dig from the past and go, oh, I remember when I was at your level, you know, this is what I had to do. But that's about as close as they can get to what you're going through to help you out. Whereas someone who's right at your level, I mean, you guys should work out together, be good team members, and you guys can really help each other out. You know, kind of like two brothers that are in a wrestling team together. I mean, there's a chance that these guys are going to be awesome because they can work together. Okay, but unfortunately, also a lot of times they fight each other or whatever. And this was the case. We were like two brothers that just had to kill each other, you know. So that's what I realized, that this is a shame. This is what I was doing incorrectly. I was training wrong, right? It was too much about who's winning, you know, too much about pride, instead of the learning experience. So this was a big revelation, so to speak, for me.